Tube drivers in London have agreed a 4-year pay deal with London Underground. They currently get just over $42,000 a year, and they'll see pay rise by 5% this year, and then they'll get the retail prices index plus 0.5% for the next 3 years. That could take them to over $50,000 by the end of the 4-year deal, and that's obviously well above the norm for pay rises at the moment. We'll speak to Bob Crow, the leader of the RMT union, in a moment. But first, Zubaida Malik has been out gauging opinion.
Rush hour on the tube and people are making their way home. And crucial to the running of all this are the drivers. It's their latest pay agreement which has put them in the headlines. A 4-year pay deal, which means they're set to earn over £52,000 a year by 2015. I asked commuters what they thought. Can I ask you, how much do you think tube drivers are paid?
About 30 grand a year.
And if I told you it was over 50,000?
A bit much for the price that we get charged for the train.
They're worth it?
Not 50 grand a year, no.
I think that's a lot of money for what they're doing. They only have to push 3 buttons, don't they?
How much do you think tube drivers are paid?
15,000.
If I told you it was over 50,000, what would you say?
Tube driver. Very surprised. I might as well be a tube driver here.
Howard Collins is London Underground's Chief Operating Officer. He understandably defends the pay deal, saying it's the first time in their history that they've managed to get a 4-year agreement.
We have to compete in the market of the rail industry, and we are actually way down the list of what drivers are paid in the industry, and this deal reflects really what is happening in the industry rather than perhaps matching it against really tough times that people are facing in many other sectors.
There is this perception that you give in too easily to RMT demands.
I will assure you the demands from the RMT were significantly different than where we've ended up, but it is tough in terms of the really quite unusual and excessive demands made by certain trade unions.
A 24-hour strike on the London Underground is underway. Members
I'm
of the
upset and angry. I can see why they're doing it, but a lot of us are suffering.
I don't really think this strike is necessary. I think it's a great pity, and it's costing London a fortune.
Commuters speaking out during the strike last year, which nearly brought the capital to a virtual standstill. And it's the ability to do this that many say is used as a threat or a bargaining tool by the RMT. Christian Woolmar is a rail analyst.
Bob Crow is in a rather lucky position. He runs a trade union where they can still stop a service by going on strike quite easily. And so that gives him the type of industrial muscle that maybe in the old days all sorts of unions, like the print unions, even the steel workers, the coal miners might have had because they can stop a service and cost the employers a lot of money very quickly.
The pay deal doesn't mean the union can't go on strike during the Olympics, and the fear is that threats of strikes could be used as a bargaining tool. The question is whether the RMT and Bob Crow would want to risk the public backlash and bad publicity that such a move would provoke.
Zubaida Malik reporting there. Well, as I say, Bob Crow, General Secretary of the RMT, joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can we just go through, let's just go through some facts and the public will make up their own mind about them to some extent. What was your original demand on this, on the deal, the pay rise that you've just been granted?
Well, number one, it's not just for train drivers, it's all staff that work on London Underground. Station workers, signal workers, track workers, everyone got the same pay deal. We was arguing that every single worker on London Underground should get the same pay deal, and that's what they've got.
Yeah, and what was your original demand?
Original demand was a substantial increase in pay.
How much? And what percentage?
Well, we don't put a percentage on it. What we say is that we want to freely negotiate with the company.
Yeah, but what was the demand? What were you asking for?
No, that was the demand. That was the demand. That's our union's conference policy.
You freely negotiate. You didn't put a figure on it.
No, I didn't put a figure on it at all. There's a substantial increase in rates of pay. We believe we've got a substantial increase in rates of pay. But really, what really marks me is that you turned around on your interview there and said that, about going on strike a month or another. We've got a 4-year deal. There's all this sensationalism when we have a strike, and then when we get a negotiated settlement, there's still sensationalism.
Yeah. Well, no, because the question is whether, and we'll come to this, but is whether the reason why you've got a deal that looks very much more generous than the typical one at the moment is because
can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? How much do you earn a year?
I'm very happy to publish my salary when all
tell
these
us.
things are published. No, I'm not going to tell you right now. I'm not going to fall for that one. Don't worry.
No, you're not falling for anything. All I'm trying to say is...
What I want to do is... Let's just ask...
I'm asking you a question. Obviously, you're very uncomfortable about what you earn. I'm saying to you is what you earn, good luck to you, and your union, if you're in a union, has negotiated that, whether it be the NUJ or whether it be BEC2 or whatever the union that works in the BBC, good luck to you. They're freely collective to get that. That's what we've got.
OK, good. Can I just ask some facts? Because this is where I want to start. What is the holiday that your train drivers get? Let's focus on the drivers. What holiday do they get each year?
Well, they all get the same holidays, train drivers, station staff, they all get the same collective agreement.
And what is it?
They work something in the region of just over 5 weeks leave plus their bank holidays.
So it's 43, is it 43 days overall, including the bank holidays?
It's
so
all
35
days. If their week's a 5-day week, but if you take a full week out, some people say it's 7, but I mean, that's the agreement they've got. So what?
Right.
How many days holiday does the MPs get?
How many hours a week do they work?
35.
Is it your opinion that if we paid less for drivers, that we would not be able to recruit? Is there sufficient talent out there, sufficient labour force out there, that we could recruit drivers, say, on a salary of 35,000 rather than 50?
Well, I mean, you could put an advert out and ask for someone whether they're prepared to work for a low rate of pay. And would we get people if we did that? I'm just interested in what your perception is as to whether this is a demand and supply thing or just... Say if we put an advert out today to say that we want a BBC correspondent for 30,000.
Well, I don't know why you keep bringing it back to me. I'm a tiny exception in the labour market because there aren't that many BBC correspondents.
I don't know why you keep on focusing on drivers all the time.
Well, because you're representing the drivers. It makes absolute sense to talk about you rather than me, doesn't it? I'm of no interest at all.
We represent all grades on London Underground. Station grades who earn more, some station grades, than train drivers. Technicians that earn more than train drivers. Why do you keep on?
Because the drivers look particularly
drivers?
Interesting to most people. The salaries are 50,000 plus. That drivers, and it's not just tube drivers. Eurostar drivers, 53,000. Virgin East Coast mainline drivers, 50,000. Virgin drivers, 48.
Look at their responsibility. They've got to drive trains all round the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the railway industry. Sometimes they're moving 800 people on a train, with no one else on that train whatsoever, more than what's on a new Airbus that a London tube driver moves, and other train drivers throughout the industry as well. And when those trains break down a tunnel, and you're literally yards upon yards upon yards from the service, and you've got passengers on there, those people's skills and ability not to get people panicked, and in the event to get into evacuation, is second to none.
Yeah. So do you think it's that justifies the pay rather than the fact that the power to strike and cause mayhem is extremely large in this particular industry? So relative to the skills or qualities or attributes or effort that needs to be made in this job, as opposed to other jobs like nurses and teachers and all sorts of other jobs, the ability to disrupt is so great that essentially the employers always have to give in.
I'll give you my personal view. Nurses and doctors should be paid a lot more than train drivers. Nurses and doctors should be paid more than a lot of other grades in Britain. They should be the highest paid people in Britain. However,
so we'd be struggling to pay levels of pay, though, wouldn't we?
However, if we don't accept a pay rise this year, they wouldn't give our money to the nurses or doctors. They'd keep it for themselves.
Bob Crow, thank you very much indeed.